beauties! Welcome back to Beauty and the Beasts, where we blend a little beauty and self-care with the darker side of the world. Tonight, we're going into a place locals talk about in fear. It's about a forest at the base of Mount Fuji, Japan, where people enter but don't always come back alive. Some survivors say it lures you in with voices. Others say they've seen figures waiting between the trees. So while we wind down with a little skincare, let's step into the shadows of the forest that swallows the living. Let's begin. So I'm pretty sure you've heard about a mountain in Japan, which is called Fujisan, or Mount Fuji. It's a beautiful mountain and everyone takes those pretty postcard photos of it. But what they don't talk about, at least not so loudly, is what sits at its foot. So at the foot of Mount Fuji, there is this forest. Locals call it Aokigahara Jukai, which means the sea of trees. So as you can imagine, from above, it looks beautiful, like a green ocean. But when you're there, it's different. In Japan, people have another name for this forest. They call it the Forest of No Return. And here, people don't just come here to hike. Some come here to end their lives, lay down their burdens. And the forest, it holds on to them. And that is why this place feels so heavy, like even the trees remember. From the outside, it just looks like any other forest. But take even a single step inside, the entire atmosphere changes. The wind dies, silence closes in, and people start feeling this heavy and unnatural feeling. The trees grow so thick, they block out the sun, turning day into something that feels like night. And people say that's why anyone who walks these paths starts to feel it, that strange pressure and that creeping fear. And they say it isn't just nerves. This forest has been feeding ghost stories for centuries. They say once you step inside, you lose all sense of direction. Compasses spin uselessly, and even phones give up. Batteries suddenly drained, signals gone, like the forest itself swallows anything that tries to guide you out. But that is not the worst part. The worst are the voices. Many claim they have heard strange voices, like a soft whisper calling their name from somewhere in the dark. And when you turn around, no one's there. But the moment you keep walking, you can feel it. The presence, the footsteps matching yours just behind. And then there are the figures. A stranger on the path waving, or someone saying, "I'm lost too, let's find the way out together." Or, "I live nearby, I know these paths, just follow me." And now think about it, you're scared, stumbling in that pitch black forest, not even sure which way is out, and suddenly someone appears, kind, reassuring, and yeah, wouldn't you follow them? Anyone would. But those who did, they say, never walked out again. Days later, they were found, their faces frozen in terror, skin bluish, eyes wide, as if they'd seen something too much for the human mind to hold. Even the search team said the same thing. Their expressions weren't of peaceful death, but of shock, horror. And one explorer and survivor claimed he saw it with his own eyes. A man in white walking ahead of him, offering to guide him out. But strangely, his footsteps made no sound. Not even a crunch, not even a thud. So everything was just silent. And then, in the blink of an eye, the man just vanished. The explorer came back to his senses and realized he was standing in a part of the forest he'd never seen before, deep in the maze with no idea how he'd actually gotten there. And another survivor, trembling when they pulled him out, muttered over and over, "They kept calling me. People kept calling my name." But there was no one around, not a single living soul. So according to testimonies, the deeper you go inside, the more it feels like a labyrinth with no exit. And once you're lost in there, it's said you don't just lose your way, you lose yourself. So is Aokigahara Jukai really cursed? Or is it simply haunted by sorrow that refuses to fade? Whatever the truth, according to people who've actually been there and claim they have seen something, one thing is certain. Once inside, the line between the living and the dead becomes dangerously thin. So let's talk about a famous witness account by someone who actually been there and barely got out alive. Let's call this person's name Bido. Bido was just 21 and he was a university student. He said he just came out to the forest out of curiosity and nothing more. But the moment he stepped into Aokigahara Jukai, he realized ignoring that gut feeling. That was his mistake. Bido and Shinichi weren't random hikers, they were horror bloggers. And since college, they had been running a little site together. They wrote up ghost stories, gathered urban legends, translated haunted house experiences, and people loved it at first. But after a while, readers wanted more shocking, more real, and views dropped, so the boys got worried. And that is when Bido told his friend, half a joke, half a dare, what if we went to these haunted places ourselves? And Shinichi thought it was an interesting idea. Maybe it could be fun. So he couldn't shake the thought. And that is how they ended up choosing Jukai. On the surface, this forest looks like an ordinary tourist spot, peaceful forest at the base of Fuji. But everyone in Japan knows its other name, the Forest of No Return. So they spent nights researching old newspaper clippings, search and rescue reports, and even books of ghost stories. And they were completely drawn into the backstory of this forest. In 1965, workers stumbled across bones, so many it made headlines. And that was when the forest's dark reputation spread nationwide. From then on, bodies were found year after year. From 1978 to 2003, there were 1,177 cases officially recorded inside that forest. Some still hanging from ropes, others nothing but scattered bones left to time. And it didn't stop there. Even recently, the tragedy continues. In 2010 alone, 247 people entered the forest to end their lives. 54 of them never walked back out. And survivors rescued that year all gave eerily similar testimonies. They said, the moment I stepped inside, I felt something weird, a crushing pressure, like I had no choice but to give in. And Bido's hands shook as he read the old articles. See, this isn't just a ghost story. It's real. Shinichi nodded, heavy and pale. So this is why they call it cursed. But what is it really? Ghosts or despair itself, he said. In Japanese culture, they say when someone dies with unbearable regret, their spirit lingers and they become yurei, restless, bound to the place of their death. People say that Jukai is thick with them, and that is why compasses fail, why electronics die, why the air presses down like a hand on your chest. It isn't just silence, they say it's company. And with that realization, the boys finally made their choice. Let's just go. Let's check it out ourselves and record everything. And that was the decision. So one summer dawn, the boys packed up what they thought they'd need: camera, recorder, a couple of small flashlights, and headed straight to Mount Fuji. But the time they stood at the entrance to Aokigahara, the fog was thick. The air was so still. Their hearts started pounding, half from fear, half from the thrill of it all. Their flashlights trembled as the beams cut between the trunks, the ground slick with damp leaves that cracked under every step. Shinichi muttered under his breath, almost as if the trees themselves could hear him. The forest of no return. Do you think the strange things people talk about actually happen here? Mido took a deep breath, flicked the camera on, and whispered back, "We will know for sure, today, right here." And with that, they stepped into the sea of trees. From the moment they crossed under those branches, something pressed down on him. The canopy blocked the sun so completely, it felt like dusk, though it was still morning. There was no wind, not even birds. The air was damp and heavy. Each step crushed the wet leaves, but beyond that, it was silence, to the point where they felt uncomfortable. Then they heard a sound this way. It was a voice, not their imagination. It was clear and very close. So both of them froze, staring at each other. "You heard that?" Mido's voice shook. Shinichi only nodded. They turned their flashlights in every direction, but nothing was there. But when they started moving again, another whisper followed. "Let's go out together." This time, Shinichi fumbled with the recorder, thumb pressing hard on the red button. The light blinked, the tape rolled. "Please," he muttered, "please let it pick this up." And moments later, they stopped. They played it back. At first, just static noise. Then, clear as day, "Let's go out together." Their hearts started pounding. That's it. This is it. If we post this, our blog's gonna blow up. Mido was grinning now, shaking with something between fear and excitement. Shinichi forced a laugh. "Yeah, this will get us views for sure. We actually did it." But their smiles didn't last long, because right then, a voice came again. This time, not from the distance, not from the fog. It was right there, right in their ears. "I'm here." Both of them froze solid. Their flashlights took so hard the beams darted across the trees. And for a second, they saw something. Something white. A figure standing between the trunks. They immediately shone the light straight on it, but it was suddenly gone. Nothing but mist. "Hey, did we catch that on camera? Let's just keep going deeper. Something else has to be out there." And Shinichi whispered, "Just a little farther. Maybe this is only the beginning." Mido nodded. He swallowed hard. But what they didn't realize was that every step forward wasn't just documenting the forest. It was the forest documenting them. And from that moment on, their little adventure wasn't just blog material anymore. It was a record of their slow walk toward death. The deeper they went, the heavier the air seemed to press down on them. And it wasn't just in their heads. Their mouths went dry, hearts thudding faster with every step. At first, they thought, okay, it's just the smell of damp earth. But no, slowly, that smell shifted into something metallic, like blood. And then, underneath it, the stench of rotting flesh. And at this point, breathing air became painful. "Hey, isn't the smell kind of weird? It's like something's decaying," Mido muttered, covering his mouth and nose. Shinichi nodded, his own face now pale. His hand shook as he held the camera, but he didn't stop walking. Then, their flashlight beam swept across something in the trees. They found a rope, old and frayed, dangling from a branch. And at the end of it, hanging there, was a body, blackened, stiff, so decayed you could barely recognize it as human. And the head lolled forward, empty eye sockets staring into the darkness of the forest. "Hey, that's a person, isn't it?" Shinichi's voice cracked. And after seeing that, they staggered back instinctively. But that was only the beginning, because once their eyes adjusted, they saw more. It wasn't just one. All around them, ropes dangled from the branches, some fresh, some old, some with bodies still swaying lifeless. They just hung there, still, like shadows nailed to the trees. Mido lifted the camera with trembling hands, and through the lens it looked like row after row of dark silhouettes standing in line. The screen shook violently as his breathing grew harsher, every gasp captured on the audio. "Mido, we have to keep filming," Shinichi hissed through clenched teeth. "No one would believe this otherwise. We need to show them." But his wide, quivering eyes betrayed the truth. He was terrified. Then Mido's foot crunched on something, so he looked down. In the tangle of weeds lay scattered bones, pale against the soil. Beneath them, a single old sneaker, and stuck to it, a scrap of paper, wet and torn, but with one word still visible: "Forgive me." Mido's face went white. His flashlight nearly slipped from his hand. "Shinichi, maybe we should turn back." But Shinichi couldn't look away. His gaze was fixed on the forest of ropes and shadows. "No, don't you see? This is our chance. If we record all of this, no one can ignore us. We will prove it. This is bigger than fear." So they gripped the camera again, forcing themselves forward. But the forest wasn't just a backdrop anymore. The forest was alive with memory. Decades of death clung to those trees, layer upon layer. And the truth was, the forest wasn't done yet. It was waiting, always waiting for the next ones. The last thing Shinichi and Mido remembered were the shapes, black silhouettes hanging from the trees, and the whispers that wouldn't stop. "I am here." That voice slid straight into their ears, and in that instant, both of them just collapsed. Their flashlight tumbled to the ground, beams rolling away until even that weak glow vanished. The forest swallowed everything in darkness. And no one knows how long they lay there. Minutes, hours, days. Time doesn't move the same in Jukai. Eventually the fog began to lift. From somewhere far off, voices rose, shouting, echoing through the trees. It was a search party. Rescue workers, called in after someone filed a missing persons report, stumbled across them deep in the woods. The two were sprawled at the roots of a tree, limp, drenched in dew, their faces pale as chalk. They looked like they'd been wandering for days, even though they hadn't. So the rescuers hauled them out quickly, but here's the strange part. Around them, the forest was clean. No ropes, no bodies, no evidence at all. But what they did have were their devices. The camera clutched tight in Mido's hand, and the recorder still hanging around Shinichi's neck. The boys swore those were their proof. The voices, the whisper, the bodies, the horrors of that night. But when the rescuers checked, nothing. The camera's memory card was empty, as if it had never been turned on. Not a single frame, not even a corrupted file, just blank. And the recorder, same thing. They'd watched the red light blink, seen it spinning, recording, and yet all it held was static, wind, crickets, the forest at rest, as if nothing had happened at all. This can't be, Mido whispered. His voice trembled in disbelief. "I heard it. We both clearly did. We heard, 'Come with me, I'm here.' It should be all here." Shinichi just shook his head. His face was now white. Was it just an illusion? Or did the forest erase it itself? The rescue workers laughed nervously, but behind their eyes was something else. They had heard stories too, strange things on other searches, things they never put into the reports. And true enough, the official record of that day was just brief and simple. 2 missing persons recovered, exhausted, but alive. And the forest gave nothing away, no answers, just silence between the trees, thick and airless. And Shinichi and Mido understood then. Surviving was miracle enough, but leaving with proof, that was impossible. The forest had swallowed it whole. Their memories were all that remained. Fragile, scared, trembling. And maybe that was the forest's way of protecting itself, letting them live, but erasing the record. But unfortunately, not everyone came out like Mido and Shinichi. Some didn't resist the voice. Some just never walked back. And searchers tell it the same way. A missing person goes in, a report gets filed, and days later, they're found, lifeless. The ropes still hanging, the body swaying stiff in the silence. And you know what's interesting? These stories, they are not just ghost tales. There are actual scholars, experts who look at Jukai and say, this terror comes from somewhere else. Not from spirits, not from curses, but from culture. Some stories we humans told ourselves. Back in the 1960s, a famous Japanese writer, Matsumoto Seicho, published a novel called Tower of Waves. And in that story, the protagonist chose to end his life right there in Aokigahara. And at first, it was just fiction. But then a woman was found in the forest. She had laid the book at her side like a pillow and never woke again. This shocked the media. Maybe coincidence, maybe not. But after that, the numbers rose. The newspapers began using a word, the Werther effect. You know, like Goethe's novel, The Sorrows of Young Werther, when young men in Europe imitated the hero's gunshot death. Literature, they said, had created an image so powerful it bled into reality. So maybe it wasn't whispers dragging people in. Maybe it was story itself. A tale that wrapped death and tragedy and romance gave shape to despair. Psychologists say it spreads like contagion. So one person chooses it, another follows. And slowly, over years, the forest becomes a stage where death is rehearsed again and again until it feels inevitable. So perhaps the dread that clings to Jukai Forest isn't just about ghosts hiding in the trees. Maybe it's about us, about the way we carry stories, repeat them, pass them down until they feel alive. Maybe the haunting is a mirror. Today, Aokigahara is maintained like a tourist spot. There are trails, clear signage, even ropes to keep you from straying. So if you stay on that path, it's almost impossible to get lost. And those old rumors that compasses stop completely, some people say it's exaggerated. The soil has magnetite, sure, so you get a 1 or 2 degree wobble, but a compass doesn't just die outright. But science can only explain so much. It doesn't erase the atmosphere. People who go there say they feel something strange, like walk there in daylight and shadows hang heavy between the trees. No bird song, only silence, so still it feels like someone is breathing just behind you. And searchers say it's just the little things that strike hardest. A rope frayed and left behind, a single shoe, a strip of cloth trembling in the wind. Each one is a mute reminder. This isn't just scenery. It's where someone's story ended. So maybe the real terror of Jukai isn't yurei whispering in your ear. Maybe it's heavier than that. The despair of thousands who chose this place as their last stop, layered one over another until the whole forest seems to breathe it. To visitors, it's a curiosity, a strange destination beneath Fuji's slopes. But for Japan, it's also like a monument, a symbol of collective sorrow that stretches across generations. And that alone is enough to make anyone who steps under those trees fall quiet. Anyways, Jukai still remains a mystery to many people. And all that despair, layered and pressed into the trees over decades, has shaped the forest into what it is now. Creepy, feels like someone's waiting, still ready to whisper to anyone who steps inside. Okay, that is a wrap for today's story. What do you think? Do you think Jukai is really haunted by restless souls pulling the living into their world? Or is it our own stories, our fear, our despair that give the forest its power? Well, I think it can actually be explained away. It could be a psychological effect. I don't know. But it is strange because not like one or two people and their lives there, like thousands of people. And if there are spirits lingering in the forest waiting for people, it isn't even surprising. So many people died there. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, and if you've actually been to this forest. Any Japanese viewers out there, if you have any experiences, I would love to hear them. And also let me know if there are haunted places in your country you'd like me to cover next. Hope you guys sleep well, and see you guys soon in our next episode. Bye bye.